race, Mr. Province Sports and GT Master Series. It looks like a lovely day out there in Detroit. We will be joined by our American commentator a little bit later, Bob Cutlass. He'll be shouting the odds there from trackside and bringing you up to speed with what is happening out there. The guys are busy setting their times out there. That is the 304 of, I think, Willem. No, who was that 304? Let's have a look there. The car on track now, car number 12. That is Peter van der Spy in the Storm Chasers car, working his way around the circuit.
Right, Ian Riddle is out there with the 11 Ford Mustang, busy working his way around Detroit. Willem Pina in the Castrol Edge car, and he is in that Commodore. Then Herman Lazarus, the man from cheapercars.co.za, busy working his way around the circuit. And then FC the 777 of Peter Hubert.
Yeah, the 777 of Peter Hubert out there, the Dunlop Timken car. Then it is the Ford Mustang of Virgin Australia Ford there of Darby Hubert working his way around the circuit. The next man that we'll see on the screen there is this man. That's Robbie Teams out in the Super Cheap Auto and Ford Mustang as well. Ati Nachel out in his Ford Repco Mustang working his way towards a warm-up lap and working his way around Detroit City.
Space Hubert in the Pepsi Twist car out there. He's in car number 20. That's the Holden Commodore, and he's working his way around. And then Willem Botha in the 23, also busy making his way around there. He's in that Commodore, and then FC Andre Steenkamp. He's working his way around in the Commodore in that lovely color scheme of his.
Beautiful John Player's special color scheme. Next man out, Colin Plitt in the Hot Wheels number 75 Holden. Then we've got Luke Lucchesi in the Red Bull Holden working his way around the circuit. We saw Johan Prix during practice being very quick as well. That is the man out on circuit now in the Monster Energy Holden, and I must say he was blindingly quick out there. We got our first times up as Johan Prix immediately goes to pole position on a 129.750 as the Derby player, the next man out there, 2 seconds off the pace there from Prix. But Francois Hubert puts up a good time as well. Car number 304, Francois Hubert, about half a second down from Johan Prix.
Right, the times are beginning to come through now for the drivers. Andre Steenkamp so far in provisional 4th, and he's 0.8 of a second behind the Peter Hubert. Johan Prix with 4 minutes done is still the quickest man out there. There's the Virgin Australia outfit of Darby Hubert, and he's 2.1 seconds behind Johan Prix.
Ati Nachel, the next man to post a time there, he goes 5th quickest. He's about 2.1 seconds off the pace of our pole sitter, Johan Prix, in that 5th position. Darby Hubert in 6th with the Robbie Teams currently in that 7th position, 2.292, with Lazarus in 8th. Colin Plitt currently in 9th position, 3.7 seconds off of our pole sitter, Johan.
Now Colin Plitt sitting out there in that 10th position. There is the Red Bull Holden of Luke Lucchesi, car number 15. He's just done a 130 odd, and he's 0.8 off of Prix, the pole sitter, who finds himself in pit lane.
Yeah, look, I watched the times from the practice session. Johan Prix looked like he was so much in control compared to some of the other guys, and we can see it in the qualifying times. We know Francois Hubert is not slow, but to be half a second down from Prix, that does not bode well for the rest of the guys out there. Ian Riddle, the man you're currently seeing out on track, that was the white and blue Ford Mustang. He's 4.1 seconds down. This is Eugene Manook in the pink BWT car. He's currently in the 12th position ahead of Willem Pina.
Now Willem Pina in the Castrol Edge car, finding himself in that 13th position, 10.3 seconds behind provisional pole sitter, and that is Johan Prix. And he is out there in that 13th position with the Holden Commodore number 57.
Well, that time cannot be representative. I mean, we know what Willem Pina is capable of, but just look at the damage on that car. That must have been a very big off-track shunt there for Willem Pina, and that's what gave him that 10-second difference from our race leaders. So he's definitely going to improve on that one if he does not get a time deleted. Oh, very sideways goes Ian Riddle and he pitches it the wrong way around, right in front of the Chevrolet signage around the Belle Isle circuit in Detroit.
Yeah, Ian currently in that 11th position, 3.1 seconds off Yuan Prix, and that little slide will do him no good. In that third position, and he is 7 tenths of a second Yuan Prix.
Yeah, Willem currently in that third position. Robbie Teams out there in sixth. He is 1.5 seconds off of our race leader there. Johan Prix still the man to catch out there. He is back out on circuit as everybody still tries to put up a lap time there to try and get as close to Johan as possible. They've got a mountain to climb. That was a monster lap. Excuse the pun. A monster lap for the monster car of Johan Prix.
Yeah, well, he's going to have to do some monster driving right out there because currently there's only 8 tenths of a second that are separating the first five: Prix, Hubert, Butter, Hubert, and Lucchesi.
Peter van der Spey just put up a time there that's good enough for ninth position. He's 2 seconds off the pace there of Prix. Yeah, that's about a 1 minute 31. The Johan Engelbrecht now posts a time as he works his way around the circuit as well. There he is with the number 99 as they try to catch their Prix. Luke Lucchesi just went second fastest. He improved on his time. He is now just half a second behind Prix. But Prix improves 129.561. That's 2 tenths of a second faster for Prix. We thought the first lap was a monster lap. This one, even quicker.
Well, I'll tell you what, if anybody can drive a V8 around the circuit, be it real time or even sim rig, it is this man, Johan Prix. Remember, a couple of years ago, he was West Bank V8 Supercar champion. He was also South African SASCAR champion back in the day. So if anybody knows how to drive a V8 around a racetrack in any conditions, it's definitely Johan Prix. Covered Luke in a 130.2, so he's catching is only 7 tenths of a second. Johan Prix.
Yeah, Lucchesi definitely tried to go faster there to catch Prix, but unfortunately Prix improved on that time for Lucchesi. Franz Hubert in third. He's in pit lane at the moment. Willem Buerta currently in that fourth, as a lot of the guys are in the pits. The only guys out on circuit at the moment is Prix, Buerta, Engelbrecht, and Riddle.
Right, 9 minutes done. We've got 55 seconds left before this qualifying stint is over. And that man in the Monster Energy Golden Commodore, the 129.561 is Johan Prix as he makes his way into the pit lane. And Ian Riddle's times are also...
Whoops.
Oh, and there's a crash for Eugene Manouk. And he's in 17th with a 136.108. And he's out there in the pink car this evening. And he just stuck that machine heavily into the wall.
Now, I'm not too sure, looking at that car of Engelbrecht, is that the paint scheme or is that damage to the car? Not too sure there, but Johan Engelbrecht still making his way around the circuit in that 12th position, 132.337, his best lap time so far. But only 2 seconds left in the session. There we go. That is the end of qualifying, and that is your starting grid for round number 4 of Western Province Sports and GT Master Series.
Right, here we go. Row 1, Johan Prix and Pantera Racing's Luke Lucchesi. Row 2, Francois Hubert, Willem Buerta. Row 3, Peter Hubert and Atina Acho.
Row number 4 sees Robbie Teens alongside Andre Steenkamp. Row number 5 has got Davy Hubert and Peter van der Spey. Herman Lazarus and Johan Engelbrecht fills row number 6. And then in 13th, we've got Graham Stephen and Colin Plitt in 14th, with Riddle and Pinar filling up row number 8.
Row 9, Eugene Manouk and Swiss Hubert. 9 rows, 18 drivers out there, all in Ford Mustangs and in Holden Commodores. As we wait for the drivers to grid, so far Engelbrecht, Stephen and Plitt still need to take up their grid positions, and then we'll all be good and ready to go for 45 minutes.
Well, Frankie, down at the circuit, we've got our American local commentator down there, Bob Cutlass. We're going to leave the start of this race to Bob. Good evening to you, Bob. Yeah, good hi and big welcome to everybody here from Detroit, down in Michigan, the United States of. I shouldn't say down, we're actually on the upside of the state. But yeah, welcome to Belle Isle, where we'll be racing around the city of Detroit. We got the Aussie V8 Supercars out there, and you got Johan Prix starting on pole position. He's alongside Luke Lucchese in that Red Bull car. You got Francois Jobert out there in the 304 with Willem Botha in the number 23 car in that fourth position. In the Timken Dunlop car, the 777, you got Peter Jobert. That'll be pulling up that fifth place with Atty Nagel in the Ford Mustang. We got green lights, boogity, boogity, boogity. We are racing, folks.
Right, and away they go. 45 minutes is done. What a storm off the line there by Johan Prix. He was challenged there by Willem Botha. Botha drops there into that second position. Then Luke Lucchese is in that third position. That's the first three. Atinachel sitting there in P4. And riding off the top five is Francois Hubert. Robbie Teings down there in the 8th position. Somebody having a storm up on the inside. That is Engelbrecht. Johan Engelbrecht got it slightly wagging, but he made up the position there on the 12th car of Peter van der Spey.
Yeah, Atinachel finds himself there in that fourth position, having a wonderful view of that battle between Willem Botha and Lucchese. Lucchese had a horrible start there, dropped down to third, and as Willem Botha got past him, then Botha battling Lucchese there. He's now dropped down to third with Lucchese retaking that second position. But Botha, we've seen how quick he can be. Last week, he was super difficult. And Lucchese hits the wall. Lucchese ran wide and hit the wall.
Yeah, Lucchese dropping all the way down the leaderboard as he's obviously escaped there to the pit area. That was horrible, horrible there for Luke Lucchese. Just whacked the car right up against the wall, and he has done himself no favors. Willem Botha was right in there with him, but I think he did that one all by himself. Going into the right-hander, yeah, and into the tire barrier goes Luke Lucchese.
Yeah, Frank, we've seen racing here at the circuit before. That corner has caught out multiple race winners before. So unfortunately, Luke Lucchese, the first one. Oh, massive contact there as Peter Hubert was a passenger, and that one just got took out and towards the tire barrier there. Herman Lazarus was involved with that one. So yeah, a massive pile up after that one. That was
I think that 6th car is Darby Hubert.
Yeah, Darby Hubert might have started that one. Graham Stephen was involved in that one as well with the Gulf Oil car. He went hard on the brakes, couldn't make the corner. Then, he got collected by that whole pile up. Everybody just ramming into that one. And that is not how the guys wanted to start this one.
Now, the 75 of Colin Plitt was also involved in that issue out there. So there's a lot of damaged cars on lap 2 of 45 minutes, but no problem out there for Johan Prix. We'll get the intervals up for you now because Prix beginning to pull away there from Botha. He's 2.1 seconds ahead of Botha, and Botha is 2 seconds ahead of Atinachel, but Francois Hubert in that 4th position is only 0.3 of a second behind Atinachel.
Yeah, well, Francois Hubert is creeping ever so closer to that back end of Atinachel as they work their way around the Belle Isle circuit here in Detroit. Peter van der Spey having a hard drive to try and catch up the back there of Luke Lucchese, but he's got Graham Stephen right behind him. Graham Stephen, we know how quick this man can be as well, and he's right on the tail end there of Peter van der Spey.
Yeah, Francois Hubert, you can see there, he's right on the case on that number 4 car of Atinachel. They're fighting it out there for that 3rd position. There was a personal best put up there by Francois Hubert. 0.3 of a second between him and the man in 3rd position, Atinachel. But Francois Hubert wants to have a go as we have a look at that fight still raging on here between the Ford Mustang and right behind it, the Holden Commodore.
Luke Lucchese is the man on the move. He just made a pass there on Andres Steenkamp, moved back into that 6th position. There he goes now up on the inside there of the Steenkamp in the John Player's special car as Luke Lucchesi in the Red Bull Holden is working his way. Sway Schubert has got a bit of an issue. He's in the pits making his way back out onto the circuit now in the Pepsi Twist car and hits the pit wall.
Oh, not exactly what he wanted. I think he was also involved in that situation a bit early on, and then exiting the pit lane, he hammers the wall. However, they have a replay at and a look here at the Andre Steenkamp in the 18 car, in the JPS car, going into the right-hander and hammers the wall at exactly the same place where Luke Lucchesi did.
We are going to see that so many times this evening, I can guarantee you that. But jumping back to the front, your race leader to almost 3 seconds in the lead there is Johan Prix in the Monster Energy Holden in front of Willem Botha. Botha had a brilliant race last time around. We saw how super quick he can be, but also a couple of mistakes that cost him at that last round. Can he keep his cool and hold on to that second position or even challenge the likes of Johan Prix?
Francois Hubert in that third position. He's got Atinachel all over him. Here is Luke Lucchesi going into that right-hander. And the man ahead of him there, only 1.8 seconds, is Robbie Teens. Their Teens goes into that left-hander. And 1.7 seconds now between himself and Luke Lucchesi.
A replay here of Ian Riddle. Let's see what happened to him. That Mustang being battered. That is the infamous corner, but a different kind of spin out there as he clipped that inside curbstone, and that sent that Mustang spinning.
Replay here of the Storm Chasers Mustang of Peter van der Spy. Oh, the tail end just got away from Peter there, and he just hammered that concrete wall on his left-hand side.
That section of the circuit looks a little bumpy, so if you just put it down a little bit too much power too early during that bumpy phase of that corner exit, that is going to shoot you out towards the wall, as we saw what happened there to Van der Spy. But back to the front of this race, Johan Prix 3.6 seconds ahead there of Willem Botha, the man in second position, as Francois Hubert is down there in third place, being chased down by Atinachel.
Well, Luke Lucchesi has caught up onto the back end of Robbie Teens. There's only 0.5 of a second between the two of them. There they come out of that left-hander, working their way down that straight, and Robbie Teens is being crowded there by Lucchesi. Lucchesi up on the inside has got the line for the right-hander, and Lucchesi takes that fifth position away from Robbie Teens, demoting Teens down into P6.
Yeah, and then we saw Atinachel go into the barriers, and Luke Lucchesi is handed another position there as Nachel just got that corner completely wrong, clipped that curb. Let's see what happens here. Oh, he got onto the grass, and that sent that Mustang into a tail wag and completely misses the corner and goes hard into the barrier, and that gifts a position there to Lucchesi and Robbie Teens. And oh, just look at this battered car of a Herman Lazarus. He's not having a good time out there.
The old backing is gone. It's a very second-handed looking motor car of Lazarus. Willem Botha in the Castro Edge car, busy working his way around. This is a replay of him. Just gets it wrong, comes out that corner slightly too hot, and puts that Castro Edge car into the retaining wall.
Yeah, that was the same position as Peter van der Spy. Again, that bumpy corner exit. But Johan Prix, he's got no problems out there. He's got a commanding lead in this one. He doesn't really have to push too hard. He was 0.7 of a second faster than anybody else out there on a single lap, so he can cruise up in the lead there. He doesn't have to worry too much. Willem Botha in second position. That is Francois Hubert in the green machine out there in third position, but he's got a hard charging Luke Lucchesi out there in the Red Bull car, working his way back up into fourth and being chased down by Robbie Teens.
Oh, Colin Britt, that's 75 cars in trouble down here. That's the Hot Wheels outfit. As we'll have a look and see what happened to him going into that right-hander. That is the Hot Wheels Commodore, and just misjudges the corner and gets it all wrong there.
Well, I don't want Bob to hear this, but usually they say it's American cars that can't corner. We didn't know that Aussie V8s can't corner either.
That they're all American.
Exactly.
Whoa,
bang goes Ian Riddle in that replay. Again, that same corner. The guy's just not finding that sweet spot to work their way around that corner.
So, Robbie Teens has got a problem, and it's called Atinachel because Atinachel is 5/10 of a second behind Robbie Teens as
Lucchesi
Lucchesi.
spun.
Lucchesi's dropped down to P6. What went wrong there for him? This is the Virgin Australia Mustang of Derby Hubert without the boot lid and without a wing on the back, and then getting it all wrong again, going into that right hander and gets hammered there by the JPS car.
You're going to find that the clerk of the course will be handing out a whole range of penalties for unsafe rejoins after this one. Again, the guy's just putting down the power a little bit too early coming through the corners, and that sends those cars into a spin and facing the wrong way. Luckily, he got out of the way, didn't touch anybody else, but you can imagine that that is a very, very ticked off, a cheesed off Luke Lucchesi.
Well, that's why Lucchesi finds himself in 7th position and currently in the pit lane because of that. But Atinachel is all over the back end of Robbie Teens. That's a fight for P4 and 5 out there. Teens in P4, Nachel in P5. 3/10 of a second between Teens and Nachel. And that Ford Mustang is all over the back end of the Mustang of Teens as they work their way through that right-hander. That is the right-hander that's caused so many casualties so far.
Yeah, it's all of the hard work that the guys have got to do here around Belle Isle. That is back onto the Sunset, or no, sorry, the Strand Drive as they make their way around the circuit here. Got the ocean to your left as they charge down that straight. Back into turn number 12 they go underneath the MGM Casino bridge. It is Atinachel that is glued to that back bumper of Robbie Teens. Robbie Teens cannot afford to put a foot wrong because Nachel is waiting ready to pounce.
Well, down into turn number 1 they go as they make their way around the circuit. There's somebody coming out the pit area, and Derby Hubert is in the pits for that matter, but I just saw a car working its way out. It's Willem Pienaar that made his way out onto the circuit, I think.
Tried to reverse out of the pits there. But Nachel is on that back bumper of Robbie Teens. Are we going to see a move here? It's amazing to see the speed that Nachel is getting out of that car with the amount of damage that he's got on there. But he's obviously getting a lot of drafting behind that Mustang of Teens to be able to keep up there with him. And now he drops back a little bit further, makes a mistake, gets the tail wagging, and that gives Robbie Teens a bit of a breather.
Yeah, that's not exactly what Atinachel needed at this point in time. He does have Graham Stephen behind him, but that's 19-second gap between himself and Graham Stephen. That's there in P6. However, no problems for this man that sits out there in P1. Johan Prix. He's 4.4 seconds ahead of Buerta. That's in that second position. He's got Eugene Manouk between himself and Buerta. Eugene is a back marker. There is Willem Buerta in that 23 car, and FCA replay here under the Penske Bridge of Hammer Nazareth.
A little bit too hard into the corner, completely misses the corner, and keeps it out of the wall, luckily. But that, is a tricky corner once again there. A lot of tricky corners around the circuit, catching the guys out. Another replay here of the Storm Chasers car there of Peter van der Spey. Let's see what happened. He got that tail wagging under braking and gets collected by the tyre wall.
And gets collected there by, I think that's Graham Stephen,
yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, but doesn't seem to be too much damage there on Graham Stephen's car. He's still in that 6th position, 20 seconds behind Atinachel. However, Ian Riddle in P10 has got the Pepsi Twist car of Swayze Hubert behind him. Riddle P9, Swayze Hubert P10, and 8/10 of a second between Ian and Swayze.
Yeah, a lot of the cars out there with a lot of damage, and the guys are rather choosing to keep going than wasting time in the pits because, hey, I guarantee you the guy behind me probably has damage as well from missing a corner or two. But Swayze Hubert gaining on, but we see Luke Lucchesi passing Peter Hubert for that 7th position, and the Timken Dunlop Holden losing a position there to the Holden of Luke Lucchesi.
Yeah, Luke fighting his way back, finds himself there now in that 7th position. And this is a replay of the overtaking maneuver there. Lucchesi on Peter Hubert.
Lucchesi having to really work hard this evening. And it's been a theme of the season. We've seen some of our top guys have really bad luck out there. We've seen some of our mid-pack drivers come up the ranks and keep out of trouble and finishing towards the front end of the field this season. But not the case this evening. Johan Prix has got a considerable lead in the front. He's a 4.2 seconds ahead of Willem Butter, but Ian Riddle is busy catching Swayze Hubert there. Oh, hits the wall there as Ian Riddle, as he lost that position to Swayze Hubert and tries to stay with him to try and retake that position.
I rubbed that ball very hard there. Ian Riddle sitting in that 10th position, and that is a replay of the overtaking maneuver. Swayze Hubert and getting his nose ahead there of Ian Riddle.
A beautiful shot there of Johan Prix working his way around the circuit. 4.4 seconds the lead there on Willem Butter. Prix making this look really easy. This is the kind of racing he likes. He makes that car look like it's running in a slot on a slot car track at the stage of the fight.
Yeah, he just made the move there, and he's got Swayze Hubert ahead of him. And that's the man that's in P9 that he will be lapping shortly. There you can see Swayze Hubert just ahead of Johan Prix as he works his way under the Penske Bridge to go and put a lap there on Swayze Hubert.
Part of the brakes there was Swayze Hubert going into that corner. But just look at the damage on this car of Atinachel. How is able to get that pace out of that car, even going off the track slightly, to try and make up every 10th of a second that he possibly can to try and stay there with Robbie Teens. We just saw Colin Plitt make a move there on Darby Hubert, and now passing Ian Riddle as well is Colin Plitt. But this fight is going to be tight. Oh, a mistake there from Robbie Teens as he runs it a bit wide, and that almost brought Nagel back there. But this is the replay of Colin Plitt making his passing maneuver. But back to Nagel, he made that pass on Robbie Teens.
Yeah, Teens dropping down into that 5th position. Oh, they're so close to the wall of these drivers. It's a bonnetless Ford Mustang of iRacing SA's Atinachel that is working his way around, and he's now 7/10 of a second ahead of Robbie Teens. But trust me, Robbie Teens will not let Atinachel just get away underneath him. He will fight as hard as he can to try and regain that 4th position.
Yeah, Robbie Teens will definitely try and fight to get that one back. Colin Plitt made a passing maneuver on Ian Riddle. Then he must have made a mistake somewhere, because Ian Riddle just got past him and then all of a sudden pulled an 8-second gap on him. There we have Colin Plitt. He's ahead there of Ian Riddle. Let's have a look and see what that mistake was in the Hot Wheels car. Got the tail end out, put it sideways, and that's allowed Riddle back into that position, and it just dropped Colin Plitt in the process.
Dropped him down to 13th position. Lucky he never made contact with the wall or anything. But, as I said, Robbie Teens will not give up this fight for 4th position between himself and Atinachel. Ati's sitting there in 4th. Robbie's sitting in P5. 8/10 of a second between the two of them. And there's one other fight out there on circuit, and that's a one for P14 between Darby Hubert, who's only 7/10 of a second ahead of Peter van der Spy, and that is the two cars you see there on screen.
Yeah, the Virgin Australia and the Storm Chasers cars there of Hubert and van der Spy battling it out there. Van der Spy is on the move because he's getting closer and closer to Darby Hubert. Now he drops it going through that corner ever so slightly, but he's not letting Darby Hubert get away. But they've now also caught up to the back end of the Hot Wheels car of Colin Plitt.
Yeah, it's now a three-way fight for that 13th position of Colin Plitt. He's 7/10 of a second ahead of Darby Hubert, who is 3/10 of a second ahead of Peter van der Spy. And that's the three cars you see on screen, 13th, 14th, and 15th. Plitt, Hubert, and van der Spy.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on this one. But Willem Butter is in the pit lane. Willem Butter, the first one to blink and head into the pits of that front group on lap number 13, 18 minutes in. Does he have damage, or is that his strategy? Ran it short in the first stint to then maybe try and eke it out towards the end of the race. But Willem Butter, the first man to blink.
Yeah, he's the first of the front runners to make his way into the pit lane. Is Willem Botha. Atinagel is there now in that third position. Ahead of him is Swais Joubert. Atinagel has got 6 seconds to go before he picks up to put a lap on Eugene Minuk. And there is Atinagel coming through. Robbie Teens is there behind him. So Nagel is getting closer and closer to put another lap there on Eugene Minuk.
Well, Colin Plitt also dove into the pits there, and that released Peter van der Spey and Davy Joubert. Peter van der Spey actually made it past Joubert and Plitt before Plitt dove into the pits. So van der Spey having moved up into that 13th position. But just look at those positions gained and lost. Peter van der Spey, one of the biggest losers out there. He lost 3 positions. Andre Steenkamp losing 7 positions. Swais Joubert will be sitting with a massive smile on his face, gaining 9 positions.
He's gone all the way up to P9 in Swais. He's had a good one out there. But Sponsor Joubert is about to put a lap there on the man in P10, and that is Johan Engelbrecht. So Johan is in the top 10, but he's about to go a lap down to the man that's in second position, namely Francois Joubert. There Joubert puts a move on him and almost makes contact with those tires there in that infamous right-hander. A replay here at Willem Pina in the Castrol Edge Holden Commodore, and it is once again that right-hander that catches Willem Pina out like it's caught out so many other drivers so far in this race.
Such a tricky corner, that one. But a lot of these right-handers with that tires on the outside seems to be catching these guys out. Andre Steenkamp in the John Player Special car out there in a 15th position at the moment. He's slowly but surely gaining there on a Davy Joubert. He's just a 7/10 of a second off of him, but chasing hard to try and stick there with Davy, who is at 2.6 seconds now behind Peter van der Spey. So van der Spey managing to find some pace out there to pull away from Davy Joubert, but your lead guy, Johan Prix, dives into the pits.
Right, 21 minutes into 45, and the second of the front runners makes the way into the pits. That's Johan Prix. Now it's Francois Joubert that also makes his way into the pit area. Will Atinagel dive in as well? Surely he must move into that right-hander, and yes he does. And Nagel makes his way into the pit area, but Robbie Teens does not.
Robbie Teens seems to think that he can eke out a little bit of time there with some clear air ahead of him as he takes the lead of this race. Robbie Teens is in the lead, and that will give Willem Botha the chance to break his way past Nagel and Joubert as well. Willem Botha was in second before the round of pit stop started. He does come out behind Johan Prix. Johan Prix managed to make it out there ahead of Botha, but Willem has gained some time. He was 4 seconds behind. Now it's just 2 seconds off the pace of Johan Prix.
Graham Stephen also is making his way with the Golf Holden Commodore into a pit lane as Atinagel works his way back out onto the circuit again with that number 4 Ford Mustang. So Graham Stevens so far is in pits and he shows there in 8th position, but Robbie Teens sits out there in P1. Does he want to try and get a healthy lead as Steven works his way out onto the circuit and hopefully get in and out before Prix and Botha, but somehow I don't think so. When Robbie hits that pit lane, he'll have Prix and Botha getting their noses back ahead of him again.
Interesting thing there, Frankie. Robbie Teens has got a massive open track ahead of him, and he's the only person out there to not have made any pit stops, whether it be for strategy, fuel, or whatever, as he now dives into the pits. Let's see what he can do. Johan Prix is right on his case. There's just meters behind him, and Prix will retake the lead of this race pretty soon, but Robbie Teens will fancy to come out ahead of Atinagel. Did his plan work? We'll have to wait and see.
Well, Willem Botha has moved up into that second position. I think Francois Joubert might go back up into that third, which he does. Now, Luc Lequesi. Will Robbie come out ahead of Luc Lequesi? or will Luke, that's in that 5th position, move up there into P4?
I don't see a pit exit sign. There he goes, but it's too late. Luke Lucchesi takes 4th position. Can Teams make it out ahead of Nachel? Can he do the leapfrog? Can he get past? No, they're side by side, and Nachel takes that 5th position, and Peter Hubert makes his way past as well. So Robbie Teams actually losing a position in that one, deciding to stay out a lap longer.
So everybody's made at least one pit stop, but Robbie Teams is not going to give up that easily. He's 1.6 seconds behind Peter Hubert, and Peter Hubert is just on a second behind Atinachel, and that's the 3 cars you see going into that left-hander, looking through the front windscreen of the Robbie Teams Ford Mustang.
Yeah, Robbie Teams' Mustang, just seeing those guys disappear off into the sunset as he sits there in that 7th position. Right behind him, well, not right behind him, but 24 seconds behind him, Graham Stephen, currently in that 8th position in the Gulf Oil Holden, with Sway Hubert 6.5 seconds down the road, with Johan Engelbrecht rounding off your top 10, another 6.5 seconds down the track.
Well, the man in P10 is Johan Engelbrecht. He's 6.8 seconds behind Sway Hubert, and he's 38.7 seconds ahead of Ian Riddle. That is in 11th position. That is the Mustang of Ian Riddle you see out there, sitting in that 11th place in car number 11, how ironically. And he is in that 11th position, and he's nearly 39 seconds behind Johan Engelbrecht, that is there in P10.
Well, frankly, while we don't have too many close battles out there, and as I say that, Graham Stephen now starts to get closer and closer to the back end of Sway Hubert. We might see a move there in the not too distant future as he's glued to that back bumper. Before we cut over to Bob Cutler, Stephen makes a mistake. He grazes that wall, and yeah, I think this is the perfect opportunity for us to cut down to Bob Cutler's and get his impression of the South Africans out here at Belle Isle. Yeah, thanks FC and Frankie. Lovely to have you guys out here at Detroit at Belle Isle as we watch Graham Stephen just messing it up once again out there. The guys finding it a bit difficult out here around the Detroit circuit as Johan Engelbrecht dives into the pit area with that number 99 car. But as always, Belle Isle proving to be a masterful teaching ground for any racer that comes out here. I must say I'm super chuffed and impressed with Johan Fourie that is in the lead. But I must say, from what I've seen from your season so far, Willem Botha is the man that's impressing me a lot as well.
Yes, Bob, I do agree with you, but there's a bit of a change in the front in the sense that the man that you spoke about, Willem Botha, is now only 2.2 seconds behind Johan Fourie, and the man you see on screen there, Francois Hubert, is nearly 11 seconds behind Botha. The gap has now come down by another 1/10 of a second between Fourie and Botha. So all of a sudden, with nearly 28 minutes done and a round of pit stops, Willem Botha is now right on the case of Fourie. It's just gone up to 2 seconds. It was down to about 1.9. So Botha is getting under Johan Fourie.
Yeah, Frank, yeah, I picked that up as well. And initially, before the whole pit stop series started, you had Willem Botha. He was about 4 seconds behind the likes there of Fourie. As we watch Graham Stephen drafting behind the likes there of Sway Hubert in the Pepsi Twist car. He goes for the outside, but just doesn't get the maneuver done before they get to that right-handed corner. Can he maybe do a flick back? No, he cannot. Sway Hubert defending that position very, very heavily, and Graham Stephen's going to fall back. But yeah, Willem Botha having brought down that gap by 2 seconds after the pit stop rounds. And here we go. Frankie, give us a shot on this battle.
Well, this is going to be a... Oh, man! Graham Stephen tries a little bit too hard and gets the tail end of that thing stepping out underneath him. And that will now release Sway Hubert. Space is just over 4 seconds, 4.5 to be exactly, ahead there now of Graham Stephen.
Yeah, Graham Stephen just got onto the power a little bit too early coming out of that corner, trying to make the passing maneuver, and the tail end just stepped out. As Bob also said earlier, this circuit proving to be a little bit tricky for the guys not managing to work their way around those corners without making contact, or with the bumpy corners there, as Graham Stevens in trouble now. No, he's being caught up by the 15th place man, Herman Lazarus, that's trying to unlap himself.
Well, that gap between Johan Prix and Willem Botha just got bigger and bigger. At one stage of the game, there was about 1.9 seconds between Prix and Botha. It's now grown to 3.5 seconds as we watch Peter Hubert. Now, he's only 1.5 seconds behind Atinagel. There Peter goes in that Dunlop and Timken car, and just ahead of him is that blue Ford Mustang of Atinagel, and there's a second separating Ati and Peter.
Yeah, a second between the two of them there, as they're trying desperately to stick there with Luke Lucchesi, but they've got 7 seconds between themselves and at 4th place, so the battle's pretty much going to be there for 5th and 6th between Nagel and Hubert, as Lucchesi tries to make up 15 seconds behind Francois Hubert. Peter Hubert goes into the pit lane.
Yeah, I just saw him disappear there into the pit lane, Peter Hubert, but he's made a pit stop already, and he's coming in now for a second pit stop, as Eugene Manouk is still in the pits in the Papo Pilatus Ford Mustang and Best Water Technology, and he's going nowhere in a hurry at this point in time.
Well, Eugene Manouk, usually he's out there for the fun of it. You know, he enjoys his racing, tries to stay out of the way of the guys, and unfortunately doesn't always work, as we see Ian Riddle and Engelbrecht both being parked up against the concrete barriers. But Eugene Manouk having a bit of a tough time out there. I mean, some of our well-seasoned drivers battling with these cars out there, so Eugene Manouk doesn't have to feel too bad about that. But yeah, as long as you're out there racing, it's good for motorsport. That's what happened to Johan Engelbrecht. Just completely missed the corner.
Yeah, and outbraked himself and didn't go into that right-hander there by the Cadillac signage, and he'll just turn it to the right and keep on going as the cars file through there on the inside of Johan Engelbrecht.
Yeah, Manouk still out there in the pits. I think that's a lot of damage being repaired there. But Johan Prix, the man in the lead, he took back about 1.2 seconds to reclaim or to pull a gap between himself and Willem Botha again. Botha still in that second position. He hasn't put a foot wrong today. And I must say, from what we've seen incredible speed from him in the last race, but we also saw a little bit of inconsistency, just trying that a little bit too hard. And this car and track combination actually seeming to work for Willem Botha fairly well. And then you got Francois Hubert out there in 3rd position. He's 11 seconds down from Botha, and he's got a bit of a mountain to climb to catch up to the back end of that 2nd place Botha car.
Well, the gaps and the intervals between all the drivers are massive at this point in time. It's only Ian Riddle and Peter van der Spey that's having a fight out there for P10, and Riddle loses that position there to Van der Spey, and he loses out there to Johan Engelbrecht.
Yeah, he got that tail end wagging a bit coming out of that corner, and that's what set him up to not be as fast and get the tail wagging again, losing a couple of positions there. Here comes Engelbrecht around the outside, and that is how Ian Riddle lost 2 positions.
And that's a replay of Engelbrecht that drove around him on his left-hand side as he gets demoted 2 positions. However, while all of this was happening, Luke Lucchesi, that in theory's had a horror show, has moved up into that 4th position, and he's now only 15.5 seconds behind 3rd place man Francois Hubert.
Yeah, at this stage of the fight for Lucchesi, it's all about damage limitation to still get as many points as possible. This is still a long season. We still have about, 8 rounds to go? 6 or 8 rounds to go in the season. So for Lucchesi, it's all about damage limitation, but a lot of the guys have had some major points hauls out there. As we right about there with Atinagel, he is currently sitting there in 5th position. He's managed to pull a 12-second gap there on Robbie Teagues. They were battling it out there, but Teagues has made his way back into 6 after Peter Hubert dove into the pits. And unfortunately, going that one lap longer didn't work in his favor, as he's now all the way down in 6, 12 seconds behind now.
Right, so the gaps are pretty big, so I think what we can do is just run through from the top of the leaderboard down. It is Johan Prix that sits out there in P1. His last lap was 131.594, and he is 3/10 of a second, 3.2 seconds ahead there of Willem Botha, that man that's there in that second place, who's about to put a lap there and does so on Herman Lazarus.
Yeah, third position at this stage of the fight, 12 seconds down the road, is this man in the green Holden. That is Francois Hubert. He's got a 14-second lead there on Luke Duquesne in the Red Bull Holden, who currently sits there in fourth position. Ati Nachel, another 12.4 seconds down the road in the Repco Ford Mustang, and he is 13.2 seconds ahead of Robbie Teagues in sixth.
Moving turn is 17.1 seconds ahead of Peter Hubert, that is there in that 7th position. And Peter Hubert 15.3 seconds ahead of the man in P8, namely Graham Stephen, who's going to put a lap there shortly on Van der Spey. Then in 9th position, 27 seconds behind Graham, is Space Hubert. And then rounding off the top 10, 30 seconds behind Schweiz, is Johan Engelbrecht. But FC, he's got Davy Hubert all over his back bumper.
Yeah, that version car of Hubert all over his back bumper as we right unfortunately with Engelbrecht. Something went wrong here for him. Let's have a look. See, just misses the corner completely again.
Same place, same corner.
Well, that's actually a different corner because that one, the runoff is to the right. So, yeah, Johan Engelbrecht seeming to have some problems with that Holden, and that's what's brought the version car of Davy Hubert right onto his back bumper and challenging him for that 10th position. 12th goes to Andre Steenkamp. He's about 7.9 seconds down the road from that battle, and he basically just made a passing maneuver on the 13th place man, Ian Riddle.
Yeah, nice 3.1 seconds ahead of Ian Riddle in car number 11 that sits in 13th position. P14, Peter van der Spey, 22 seconds behind Riddle in the Storm Chasers Mustang. Hasn't been a good outing there for Peter. Then in 15th position, 12.6 seconds behind Van der Spey, is cheapercars.co.za's Herman Lazarus. And then in P16, 10.4 seconds behind Lazarus, is the Hot Wheels Holden of Colin Plitt.
Beautiful paint scheme on that Holden of Colin Plitt. And then behind him is the pink car there, the Mustang of Eugene Minuk. Johan Engelbrecht, what happened this time? Ooh, just got the power down a little bit too early, planted it in the wall, and that's given that position to Davy Hubert. In the, oh, that's an angry Engelbrecht out there. He's not too happy with himself, and that move out there.
Coming through there as well was Andre Steenkamp. And this is Van der Spey. Oh, you don't want to get it wrong right in front of race leader.
That
don't
was
want
close.
to get it wrong in front of Johan Prix. As a matter of fact, just missing him as well was Graham Stephen. But FC, barring a serious issue, actually I shouldn't say that, because Botha, 4.1 seconds seems a lot, but he is keeping Prix honest. If Johan Prix gets it wrong, 4 seconds will be snuffed out just like that, and then Botha could take the lead.
Yeah, look, anything can happen. Until that checkered flag comes out, you do not make a prediction amongst this group. As now Davy Hubert gets it all wrong in the Virgin Australia Mustang, as Robbie... Oh, contact there between Davy Hubert and Andre Steenkamp. Yeah. As Davy Hubert goes into the pit area with that car. Yeah, there we go. Andre Steenkamp in the John Player special car being whacked there and says, hello, I'm here as well.
But I'll tell you what, I don't think these guys are enjoying these Aussie V8 supercars on this circuit. They're really, really battling. The only two drivers that's not battling is Prix and Buerta, as Engelbrecht works his way through into the left-hander, and André Steenkamp only 1.7 seconds behind him. He wants that 10th position of Engelbrecht, and he's going to have to fight to stay ahead there of André Steenkamp.
But yeah, what we were saying before, Darby Hubert spun around there, that 4 second gap, it seems like a lot. But around this circuit, I mean, just squeezing the throttle a split second too early could send your car fishtailing and off the road into the barrier, and that could hand Willem Buerta the race. So making a prediction on the circuit is very, very difficult at this stage of the fight. So we've got to wait for that checkered flag. But not too long from now. It's about 5 minutes to go.
5 minutes to go. Willem Buerta, though, is okay. He's got 13 seconds between himself and Francois Hubert. That's in that third position. This is a replay of the Pepsi Max machine there. That's the Commodore of Suisse Hubert. And turned it into that right hand a little too soon and ended up drifting towards that corner.
I think for a moment there he thought he was Ken Block to try and drift around that corner. Is Suisse Hubert. That's what it looked from inside the car. Stomped on the brakes, turned the opposite way. Thought he was on gravel for a moment. You got to turn left to go right.
Well, yeah, if you're doing a dirt oval track, 100% correct. 4.3 seconds between the man you see on screen there, Willem Buerta, and that man that you see on screen, race leader Johan Prix, who's coming up to put a lap there on the man in P12, namely Ian Riddle.
Yeah, Ian Riddle will be within striking distance of your race leader pretty soon. Riddle currently in the 12th position, as I think this will be the second time that Prix will lap him there, because I mean earlier he was lapping the 9th position as Riddle stays out of the way of the race leader there. But Johan Prix currently leading this one in the Monster Energy car, not putting a foot wrong.
Yeah, I think he's the only one that's having fun out there. Him, Willem Buerta, Francois Hubert, yes, Luc Lucchesi still in that 4th position, but he's at 12 seconds behind as Darby Hubert once again makes his way into a pit lane. Luc Lucchesi 12.1 seconds behind third place man Francois Hubert.
Luc Lucchesi in the Pantera Racing Red Bull Holden currently in that 4th position. Let's have a look here what he did. Oh, that's not how you turn.
No. That's for sure. Coming up to put a lap there on the 75 car of Colin Plitt, and then this is what happened to Luc Lucchesi.
He just clipped that wall with the left-hand backside of the car. That put him out of shape for that corner, and that's what caused him to hit that TEPCO barriers out there. Suisse Hubert had another incident. Let's have a look at what happened to him. Car number 20, the Pepsi Twist car. Exact same position as Lucchesi's one, as Johan Prix is in the lead. I want to say, if you have to do a 360 camera view of Johan Prix and Willem Buerta's cars, I would say they're the only cars that does not have external damage on them.
Look there at André Steenkamp, just keeping way out of the way there of your race leader. If you look at the track map, FC turns 3 and 4, those are those dangerous 90-degree right-handers, and even the left-hander going into turn 5, and that's where these guys are battling.
Yeah, but this is a lovely shot here that Gary's giving us here. He showed us the left-hand front corner. He showed us the left-hand front corner. He showed us the right front. There we go. And the right rear. Not a mark on this car of Johan Prix. So he's been keeping it clean and he's been keeping it fast. And that's what's put him at a 4.8 second lead there on Willem Buerta. I would almost go as far as to say that Willem Buerta's kept his nose clean so far as well. And that's why the two of them have got such a commanding lead on the rest of the field.
Well, if I was Willem Buerta, I wouldn't bother to go after Prix. Just hang on to that second position as Peter van der Spey and Ian Riddle, they are side by side. That is Van der Spey in the replay having a fight there with Ian Riddle.
I know horses like to eat grass, but that Mustang didn't look fairly particularly happy with that grazing session there. The race leader flashing lights there at Johan Engelbrecht says, get out of my way, I'm on a hot lap here. I'm trying to get away here from Willem Butter, and he's doing that already up to 5.3 seconds now in the second half of the race, with under a minute to go, 40 seconds left in this race.
And there's basically 5 seconds between Prix and Butter that's there in that second position. The man you see or just saw on screen briefly there was Francois Hubert, and he's 14 seconds behind Willem Butter. But let's stay with this man, Johan Prix. He's done it all right, and that number 1 car is busy making its way towards the checkered flag.
Yeah, he crosses the line before the time runs out, so he is officially on the last lap now, lap number 30. There we go, the time is up, and your race leader leads this race on his last lap, heading down Central Avenue towards turn number 3. He's going to take that tricky right-hander in the Monster Energy Holden, works his way, doesn't touch any of the barriers or the curb zones. He knows he's got a commanding lead. He just needs to get it home in one piece, and this one will be in the bag.
Making his way through turn number 5 now, and he would have loved to take that checkered flag a lap earlier on, and now he's working his way down Strand Drive, and that will take him towards the fountain, which we don't really see here, but that is the fountain which will take him back onto Strand Drive and into turn 12.
Lucchesi had to go back into the pits. Did they short fuel? I saw somebody else went into the pits as well. So a couple of the guys looks like they short fueled to get to the end of this race. And this man doesn't have that problem as he works his way around turn number 11, around the fountain there, once again onto Strand Drive. Going to take the right-hander into turn number 12. And he's only got 2 turns left when that checkered flag then waits for him. Around the corner he goes towards the home stretch.
Yeah, out of turn 12, turn 13, making his way towards turn 14 and down the main straight, and victory goes to Johan Prix.
Johan Prix takes the victory. Willem Butter brings it home in P2. He's going to be super chuffed with that one. Now working his way up towards turn number 14. It is Francois Hubert. He was 15 seconds behind the leaders. He crosses the line in 3rd position. And then Nachel will be the next man through if he can keep that number 4 Mustang on the road for just the last couple of corners.
Oh, but he was 36 seconds behind. Francois Hubert was Atti Nachel. He's got a decent 14.5 seconds lead there on Luc Lucchesi as Atti Nachel makes his way into that right-hander, and Atti Nachel will be seeing the checkered flag shortly. Nachel will cross the line. Now he crosses the line and he finishes in P4.
Yeah, Nachel brought it home there in P4. The next man out there will be Luc Lucchesi. He dove into the pits on the last lap, but he brings that Red Bull Holden across the line. Now he goes there in 5th position. Damage limitation for him. Close on his heels, 5.6 seconds down the road. Peter Hubert brings the Dunlop Timken Holden through in 6th. Robbie Teagues will be the next man through in the super cheap auto Mustang. He is 24 seconds down the road there in that 7th position. As he's the last man on the lead lap is Robbie Teagues.
Yeah, he's making his way towards turn 14, turns right into turn 14 and finishes in that 7th position.
Oh, and bang, he goes into Darby Hubert. Take that, checkered flag's gone. So what an eventful race we had out here at Belle Isle around Detroit.
That horse doesn't think so.
Yeah, that Mustang shakes its head in disapproval.
So, only 7 cars on the lead lap.
Yeah, only 7 of them, but exciting racing definitely had around the circuit there. Johan Prix brought it home in 1st position. Willem Botha, I have to take my hat off to him. We know he's quick, but we've seen him be in trouble so often, and he just didn't put a foot wrong tonight in that second position. Francois Hubert brings it home in third, with Nachol in fourth, and Lucchesi rounding off your top five.
Yeah, then Peter Hubert and Robert Teams in P6 and 7. They're the only two cars still out there on the lead lap. And then one lap down is Graham Stephen and Swayze Hubert. And there's a couple of cars that are 2 laps down. Johan Engelbrecht, Andre Steenkamp, Peter van der Spey, Ian Riddle, Hammer Lazarus, and Davy Hubert. Colin Plitt was 3 laps down. Eugene Manouk 13, and Willem Pinaar 18 laps adrift.
Yeah, I think Willem Pinaar had some massive problems out there. But that was an eventful round number 4 of the Western Province Sports and GT Masters Series from Belle Isle in the V8 Supercars. And we look forward to the next one. A big thanks to Gary in the production studio. And yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed one. Frankie, a last word from your side.
Yeah, it was interesting stuff out there from the Motor City, that is Detroit, in Aussie V8 Supercars, and we look forward to the next iRacing Masters event next Wednesday. Well, from myself, Frankie Innes, for FC Nivo, for Gary Fleming, see you guys soon. Cheers, everyone.